Hey everyone, and welcome back. And right now we're going to jump into actually prototyping a bit with this photo inspiration app that I've kind of provided as a resource. I would love to see what you all kind of come up with when it comes to either mimicking this or even going ahead and creating your own little transition using kind of some of the similar concepts that we're going to learn today. And that is essentially, applying some of those different property changes when it comes to your designs. Now, for the first part, I really want to focus on just this navigation here, because that's going to be kind of the bulk of what we're going to think about. Now, what I have, like I mentioned in the previous video when I was kind of explaining some of these design assets, is that, I do have the same type of layout, so I'm keeping it super simple. I mean, you can go ahead and like have this one down here and these kind of stack up there. Totally up to you. But for the sake of this example, we're going to keep it a little bit more simple. And we're just going to really worry about, changing those fills, making sure that animation looks nice and smooth, but also kind of making sure that we display some really great motion when, a user wants to move throughout these different types of options for this navigation. So I'm going to go ahead into my prototype panel here. And if I look at this subnav, I have it named properly. And remember what I said before, that, your subnav, all your layers need to be named exactly the same. So we can do a couple of things here. If I click nature, I could just go there and click smart animate, have that last for 300 milliseconds. I think that's fine enough. And same thing with this one, architecture. I'm going to move to the third screen that I already have laid out for architecture and have it click to smart animate. Now there's a couple of things here in terms of how you can go about doing this, but this is the easiest way. We're just going to kind of base it off of click. So if we kind of look at this screen, we're going to restart it by pressing R. If I click that, so, automatically we're going to kind of see that transition. What properties do you think we actually animated here? There's actually quite a bit. We have position of the actual options, the nav options. We have the fill or the color of the actual active states. We have the fill of the different types of gallery items we have here. And we can even do something else where we have scale, where, maybe this image, like I said, gets larger. Totally up to you if you want to go that extra mile, but we're going to kind of keep it simple. And remember what I said about, I'm going to go back to my design panel for this, but remember what I said about, creating multiple types of interactions, because sometimes in navs you can use different types. So I'm going to select all the actual nav items, and you can do that in the layers panel if you want. I can click technology and hold down shift and click to portrait, and it'll just select all those items and totally negate that navigation dot. And I can actually put those in a frame. So you can frame the selection and it'll show you the shortcut there, or you can group the selection. It's totally up to you. I will group it and we'll just call this nav items. And we're going to do the same for all the other ones. So select all the nav items in there. We're going to group it. On Mac, it's going to be Command G. So I'm going to call that nav items. Make sure that it is spelled the same. And what do we have here? We are going to, I'm doing it in a bunch of different ways here, but they all work the same. Totally up to you in terms of how you want to increase your workflow. So I have them set to nav items, and we can actually see if it's going to work. So we're going to press R. So it still works the way we intended, but now we can't go back. And there's a couple ways you can do this. So we can actually say, when I drag the nav item, so if I go to my prototype panel, if I drag here, I just want to move to this screen. So on drag, we're going to keep these same smart animate properties. So the animation is going to be smart animate. It's going to be 300 milliseconds because, we're dictating what's going to happen on screen by the next screen being slightly different in terms of animating those different types of properties, or changing those properties. So we know that when we drag, we're actually going to have to move things. If we look at the prototype again, and we start it from the beginning, if I drag, you could start seeing that, you know, it works the same way in a way. So we're just allowing people to have more different types of ways to navigate. So we'll select that nav items group and go over to this screen. So if I drag, I want you to know also that Figma, like we saw before when we were, using drag to animate a slider, you can go back and forth, and Figma automatically will pick up if it will, go back to the previous nav item or not. So in this case, we're gonna do a drag, and if I drag to the left, Figma will automatically know that architecture will be the next item. If I'm dragging this way, going that way, if I'm dragging the other way, and dragging right, we can even apply another drag. So let's take a look at what that could look like. So first, I want to test out if the drag on this screen over here, the nav items, towards architecture works properly. So I'm going to restart. So if I drag, so it's working properly. Now I want to be able to drag backwards. So I'm going to go on the third screen, and we're going to basically do the exact same thing that we applied prior, but we're going to go back. So architecture, if I drag towards the right, I want to go back towards nature. So on tap, and nope, I want to do it on drag. So obviously this is now starting to just populate the exact same way. So we're just going to keep it. We're going to go back there, and we're going to add a new interaction. You can even do it up here if you'd like. I always find it easier to click the plus icon and drag it to your screen. Find it saves a lot of time, and it pre-populates everything for you. And that should be it. Let's take a look. So what we have here is we have being able to actually click a nav item, but being able to actually drag the nav item container that holds all the different nav items to kind of get to the next screen. So if you see, now we can, oops. So this one's not working. It's only working in this scenario, but it's not going back. Let's take a look at what happened. See, that is because we didn't actually set it to drag. We set it to tap. So that is my fault. So let's set it to drag. If you already did that and didn't mess up like I did, then yours should be working. So there we go. Okay, now let's take a look at our beautiful prototype. We have portrait, nature. I'm just going to click on architecture. Boom, it's automatically going to slide in, and nature automatically knows if we go this way, it knows it can go to portrait. If I let go and drag this way, it already knows I can go to architecture. So creating some really smooth animations for this kind of subnav and allowing users to just easily kind of go back and, just navigate those options. And so that's the first part I really want to focus on. I want to really focus on this little interaction here when it comes to navigating the different types of, photos that you can explore in this application. When I think about different types of applications that you all could design for, not even applications, even just if I were to think about when you filter on a website, I mean, the possibilities are endless here. So I want you to kind of do your best to think about where you could apply this type of design pattern, this kind of subnav where you're filtering through different types of options and, see what you can do.